Good evening, race fans, and welcome to tonight's coverage on TRTN. As always, I am Regan Clark. It is my great privilege and honour to be part of the production for this fantastic championship ahead of us as you join us at the opening round of Season 2 of the Xbox Community League Pro Series Championship. You'll find us for the season opener today and later on in the season for rounds 4 and 5. The rest of the season you'll find coverage over on XCL TV. The XCL Pro Series returns for its second season and reeling from a record high demand, it's set to be one of the greatest spectacles of console esports this year. It is an international and invitational championship offered up to the discerning few. Esports teams from around the world gather under the banner of the Pro Series to answer a fabled question: who is the best of the best on console? Many have answered the call, and with expected turnouts in the range of 40 drivers, the pursuit of this answer could not be greater. You join us here with about 10 minutes left to go in free practice from a cornerstone of Italian motorsports history, the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, otherwise going by Imola. Opened in 1953, originally as a motorcycle racing track, Imola, in its 75 years in operation, has seen racing of all shapes and sizes. In the modern day, it holds rounds for the FIA World Endurance Championship and European Le Mans Series, with its largest accolade, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, formerly the San Marino Grand Prix, having wrapped its contract in 2025, with no current indication as to when it will run Formula 1 again. Today, however, it is the host of the opening round of the XCL Pro Series, and with anticipation at an all-time high, let's get a look for the scope of today's race, bringing us into the regulations then for round 1 of the championship. A single hour against the mark for the race coming up. Before that will be 15 minutes of qualifying, and as throughout the season, whether it's the hour or 2-hour races, which we'll see later on here on TRTN over at round 5, it is a single mandatory pit stop fuel for a minimum of 25 seconds. Looking into the scoring system for this championship, of course, with paid entry comes paid prizes, and it's €2.50 maximum per event for the P1 position. 50 points up for grabs and €2.50 per win. That scales all the way down to P20, and the fastest lap and pole position in respect get an extra 3 points. Looking into the championship at large, we're on board at the moment with Toby Cyril, and looking to where we'll be further down the line in this season. Of course, we're covering rounds 1, 4 and 5, so you'll catch us here in Italy, America and Australia. But the rest of the season is as follows: Imola, the opening round, Red Bull Ring up next, then Brands Hatch, Watkins Glen and Mount Panorama for the opening half, Monza, Spa, Kyalami, Paul Ricard and the Nordschleife in the second half, carrying all the way to the end of February 2026. Let's get acclimatised next, as we've got only a few more minutes left to go in free practice with the grid for today's race. Turnouts from some of the largest and most reputable names in console sim racing are here, including XCL's own exclusive team competing in their native championship. Elsewhere, the juggernauts at Euro Titans, MSA, Onid, K1, Fatch GT, Velocity, SRC Motorsports and High Caliber Racing are all present. The list of the teams also include Blaze Motorsport, Frantic Motorsport, Stilo Esports, STR Esports, Momentum, Northern Lights, VXS and Simplay Racing, for a current yield of 16 teams of varying sizes, some fielding the maximum yield of 3 drivers, others preferring to go solo. We see here with Toby Cyril into the pits, fastest of any one driver on this grid in free practice. It's a Ford 1-2 between himself and Fatch GT's Wilson Gigi, who now goes up to the fastest time by 337 thousandths of a second, a 140.060 for the number 23. Looking throughout the field then, we've got Jake Garrett competing with the Euro Titans team. Melvin Milliston, the Sunday League Season 3 recently crowned champion over on NLRL, competes under the Velocity Racing Team banner alongside Tadeusz Lichka, 4th and 5th at the moment in free practice. Andre Damrat becomes a surprise entry for the exclusive team, originally as a reserve. Damrat will compete in the 789 Mustang. He's ahead at the moment of Harry Thompson in the SRC Motorsports number 294. Frano Radic for Euro Esports finds himself 8th position ahead of Simplay Racing's Jamal Clouden. Rob Appleton with Onid Racing has just been pushed down a position, was just for a moment there in 10th, but it's down to 11th, and it's because of Tyler Vermack competing with the Velocity team, now 4th, 5th and 6th between himself, Milliston and Lichka. Looking further behind, Appleton then reveals Chris Grad with Blaze Motorsports, Joachim Eriksson with Frantic Motorsports, Dean Ellis competing in one of 2 Lexuses in this championship, the number 69 competes for SRC Motorsports, Martijn van Manen with VXS Motorsport and the number 148 Ford. Speaking of Lamborghini, it's Patrick Leger with Simplay Racing's number 9 Lamborghini. I was looking ahead of myself there. Jan Bettentrup competes for K1 Esports in the number 92 BMW. He's not alone, because joining him will be James Mason in this round. We'll catch up with him later on. Matthew Copsey in the number 97 High caliber racing Ferrari, currently 18th fastest. Levi Warner with Fats GT in 19th in the number 423 Mustang. Nicholas Dahl with Frantic Motorsports, number 987 Ferrari. Finn Gombert with Exclusive Esports' number 788. Ian Skeen with the number 313 Aston Martin is the only Aston in this championship so far, as we currently are without one of the K1 Esports cars, otherwise would have been competing in the 54 Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Chris Farish in 23rd. As he crosses the line there, jumps up to 11th on that last lap. He's in the 787. And then further behind him, Paul Schultz in the 273. Stilo Esports, the solo entry for this championship so far, in the 273. Nico Schaska in the 992 makes 25th ahead of Lee Hemming with STR Esports. James Mason, as mentioned before, there competes for K1 Esports. He's 27th and ahead of Matthias de Munster with Blaze Motorsports in 28th. Flitzer Flop in the number 979 Ford Mustang is 29th for High Caliber Racing and ahead of Neil Wagstaff with Onid Racing in the 993 down in 30th. Daniel Karlborg with Frantic Motorsports in 31st. Anthony Valorio 32nd with High Caliber Racing. Ellison Williams with VXS Motorsports 33rd. Ben Rook in the number 14 Lambo is 34th. With Simplay Racing, Benjamin Hoopert with MSA rounds out a 35-car grid, and this is a record high number for attendance in any event that's fell under TRTN's broadcasting window. This is looking to be one of the biggest rounds we've ever seen here on TRTN, and it is a great pleasure then for us to be involved in this championship. And off of the topic of drivers then, let's quickly discuss before the end of free practice today. Looking at it here with just under 4 minutes left to go, from the drivers comes the topic of their machines. Highest turnouts for Season 2 already shifting in the direction of the Ford Motor Company. Their 7th generation Mustang made its GT3 debut last year at the 2024 Daytona 24 Hours in an ACC. It has risen to be a divisive powerhouse figure. It sports a Ford Performance and M Sport co-engineered 5.4-litre naturally aspirated V8 engine based off of their road-going Ford Coyote V8 engine. And looking into the balance of performance today, they're really not going to be feeling most of the effect of it. 16 kilos, though it has not stopped Ford from taking first, second and fourth in free practice today. Looking around the balance of performance field, we can see Lexus with the greatest benefit, 32 kilos shed off of the RCF. The Aston Martin V8 Vantage gains 4 kilos. BMW gains 5 with the M4. Lamborghini gains 7 with the Huracan. Ferrari gain 8 with the 296. Then up into the double figures, Porsche, McLaren, Mercedes and Ford. 14, 15 and 16. So a lot of weight gain there for the more regular customers of GT3 racing. Now, of course, we are in for what is looking to be a sprint race today. So feeling the most of that effect, I would definitely say Porsche, McLaren and Ford. Mercedes has always been sort of on the back end of balance of performance in GT3. Ford as well, but I definitely see them up against it. There was that great debate heading into this first round of the championship that Ford would be taking restrictor plates. That has since been turned down. We can see what the effects of it are now. There's plenty of speculation amongst teams and fans alike over whether or not we could be seeing an era of Ford dominance. I'd say in our travels, we've yet to see a season be outright dominated by the Blue Oval. But today could be that day. First, second and fourth. We're watching with Andre Damrat. He pulls it into the pit lane. Wilson Gigi tops the timing charts at 1:40.060 from earlier on. We just caught him to the line earlier on in the broadcast. We're up in the next couple of minutes for 15 minutes of qualifying coming up here in Imola, and it's going to be incredibly exciting. Now, we don't have any qualifying data to go by, but that's okay, because from what we've been able to observe firsthand over the course of what has been actually an hour of free practice, we've only gone live for the last 10 minutes, we have seen an incredibly close grid on our hands, and you can see the proof in the pudding there. 8 cars within a second of the fastest time so far. Looking out on the field here, here's one of them, Dean Ellis and the number 69 Lexus RCF. Getting a look around that field, it is going to be really all hands on deck here. First impressions for both viewers at home here into Season 2 and for the drivers looking to make a mark in this prestigious championship. Everyone is here under the prime directive of total domination. Whether or not can they achieve that? Here's 2 of the high caliber cars. They're Flitzer Flop, and we're on board at the moment with Matthew Copsey on his way down towards the Variante Tamburello. We'll get a full comprehensive tour of the track here at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari in a moment's time, but we're about at the end here of free practice. About a minute left to go. Ellison Williams across the line to start another flying lap. Their last lap, a 1:43.308. They need a 1:42.7 or more to improve. Let's see if we can catch on board here. Actually, we might be treated to a little track tour courtesy of Benjamin Hooper, the solo entry for MSA Racing. He makes his way out of Ravazza on his way down towards the line. The 441 will peel into the pit lane, sadly, so no dice there. Will we be getting one out of Jan Bettentrup? That does appear to be the case. Down towards the line with 30 seconds left to go in free practice. Bettentrup could be our ace in the hole here for a tour of the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Idino Ferrari, but no, pulling it to one side. I guess we're going to have to wait until qualifying comes around. You can never chance these things with these drivers nowadays, but let's see, down towards Tambirello, the 69, I believe, is just starting another flying lap. That was Dean Ellis. Now pushed down to 6th, looking at the timing charts as to who has been responsible for that. You can see the 996 up the road, having finished their lap, they put themselves in 9th place. That's Tadeusz Lichka on his way down to the Varianti Villeneuve. Jake Garrett, 3rd fastest, but trouble after the Acqua Minerale on his way up to Varianti Alta. The 314 had a stop to the side of the road there. So I have to wait until quali before we get a full tour here. I think we were bargaining a little bit more than we could have chewed in that time. Checking on board. Next driver to the line at the moment, number 149, but it is, of course, the end of free practice. So we'll be checking in with, let's have a look here, the number 69 will be next in our iron sights, that being Dean Ellis, who we've covered a few times, and trouble over the Acqua Minerale. So that brings about a very early start to qualifying. 15 minutes then against the clock, and it is one of the liveliest grids we've seen here for the start of a qualifying session. Already storming out of the gates. I believe they're up at the front of the row. I saw a purple Mustang, so that must be Andre Damrat leading the charge out of the pit lane. So yes, it is. We'll get on board here with XCL's Andre Damrat in the number 789. He's first out of the gates. Following on his trails there, Finn Gombert and Jamal Clouden. Of course, with no qualifying predictions, we are still left up in the air as to who could take home pole position, but we saw very faithful results there from Fats GT and VXS. Definitely looking to be perhaps a little bit of a quali shootout coming up in the next 15 minutes between those two teams. Let's not rule out some of the big names involved here as well, like MSA, like Euro Titans, and like Exclusive Esports. It would be rather naive to not include the big label names in amongst this fight. Do expect these drivers to give it absolutely everything here in this opening qualifying round. So following with Damrat on his trails then is Gombert. It'll be an XCL 1-2 for the start of the flying laps today. It is a very tricky track indeed. Looking back to that track map as well, just over 3 miles or just a little under 5 kilometers and 19 turns of FIA Grade 1. Also, just seen there chiming in chat, Velocity Racing Team, don't count us out. Yeah, that would be incredibly naive, to be fair, with the times coming out of free practice and coming out of the practice sessions leading into today from Velocity Racing Teams. Tadeusz Lichka, Tyler Vermack and Melvin Milliston. There's definitely great anticipation over what their first result can be in qualifying. We're following then with Andre Damrat. He'll be our unofficial tour guide here of Imola as we make our way down towards Ravazza, turns 17 and 18 for the start of the flying laps here for the first time ever in Season 2 of the XCL Pro Series. So down towards the line we go, out of turn 19, where the Varianti Bassa would be in the MotoGP configuration. You can see there just to the left-hand side, but rocketing down towards turn 1 for the start of qualifying. Here we go with Andre Damrat, already off to a great start. You can see there, holding short the pit lane was Ian Skeen, but down into Varianti Tambirello, a very controversial section of Imola. Of course, its radical redesign at the turn of the millennium was brought about by one of the most tragic days in motorsports history, the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix. Now rocketing down to a turn 5 and 6 of the Varianti Villeneuve, the second of our 2 chicanes in Sector 1 as we rocket down towards Tosa, one of our first major overtaking opportunities. Side by side on their way up through turn 7 is an often cited thing here at Tosa. On the way uphill then through turn 8 in towards Piratella we go at turn 9. Now, if we get on board with Andre Damrat, looking where he sees over the dashboard of his Mustang, we see that we start the run downhill into a very, very treacherous section of the track, the Acqua Minerale. That's turns 11, 12 and 13. Very, very tight there. Very easy for the back ends to come away. Very easy for drivers to get into a little bit of a fender bender. On their way down towards Varianti Alta we go then. Another very tight section of the track. Those curbs are not to be trifled with, as we've seen several times in the past. Now on the exit of turn 15, on the run down towards Ravazza, another major overtaking opportunity. You can see where the benefit of Ford is being seen here on a track like Imola. Yes, it's a lot more technical than its contemporaries such as Misano and Monza on ACC, as one of 3 available Italian circuits. Now on the exit of Ravazza goes Andre Damrat to be the first of our drivers onto the times there, but getting a little bit friendly over the exit of Ravazza. Could that invalidate his time? But we'll see. Down to the line goes Andre Damrat, fastest for now. Then Gombert from behind him in the 788 to a 141.2. And Jamal Clouden half a second off there as Gombert crosses the line. Didn't set a time there. Dean Ellis now off by only 32 thousandths of a second. Then Tadeusz Lichka. Then the 333 of Joachim Eriksson on his way to line. Frantic Motorsports up to third. Then the 314. That's first of the Euro Titans cars for Jake Garrett there, but couldn't set a time on the charts. That seems to be a bit of a recurring issue. The 979 is next to the line here, and that being, looking at it here, Flitzer Flop, the data tables are struggling, buckling under the weight of this insurmountably large grid today as we see the times come flying in. Notable exemptions there we see was Ben Rook, then Rob Appleton. That is for the contention of fourth place. Those two divided, looking at it here, by about I want to say that is about 65 thousandths of a second between the pair, and get used to that because it is going to be incredibly tight, claustrophobically tight gaps we'll see inside of that top 10 come the end of qualifying. 10 minutes left to go already. A great opening 5 minutes, but leading the charge is Wilson Gigi, then Andre Damrat, then Dean Ellis. Jan Bettentrup takes fourth fastest for K1 Esports, and Rob Appleton in the top 5. Then Ben Rook, Joachim Eriksson, James Mason, Jamal Clouden and Tadeusz Lichka in the top 10. Harry Thompson in 11th, Freno Radic 12th, Patrick Leger in 13th, and Flitzer Flop in 14th. And we just seen there one driver across the line a moment ago, the 998, that being Tyler Vermack, second fastest for the Velocity Racing team as he rockets across the line for the first of his times here in qualifying. Behind him, you can see the number 423 having crossed the line a moment ago. We see that Andre Damrat now takes the fastest time off of Wilson Gigi by 0.3, 105 thousandths of a second. Next to the line, we see it was the number 441, then the number 996. We're going to try and catch with the 333 of Joachim Eriksson across the line. Frantic Motorsports from 8th goes 4th with 9.5 minutes to spare. 97 heading up to the line here. We couldn't catch them all the way to the line, but we did catch as well with the 333 a moment ago. We also couldn't catch the 148. Martijn van Manen goes up to 5th. Actually, it was up to 4th, then down to 5th, because his teammate of VXS, Toby Cyril, goes 3rd and ahead of Tyler Vermack. So right now, we're looking at a Ford 1-2-3. Andre Damrat, Wilson Gigi, and Toby Cyril. Tyler Vermack, the first of the non-Fords, on the timing charts there. In 4th place in the 998. 593 across the line a moment ago. Followed by the 997, if memory serves me correctly there. So that was Melvin Milliston for Velocity Racing. Goes 7th fastest in the McLaren. 413 across the line goes James Mason. Remains at this time in 15th place. Behind him comes a myriad of cars. It's impossible to keep up from just one position here with every single car on the grid. So our sincerest apologies if we do seem a little bit lost in it all. It's very, very easy to get lost in it all when you see just the breadth of operation going on here. Harry Thompson currently in 14th in the 294, ahead of Mason there. The gap between them, 0.02 of a second. Right now, that greatest gap we're seeing up front there, Wilson Gigi to Andre Damrat, 315 thousandths of a second. Currently impenetrable gap of 140.435 is the time to beat. Wilson Gigi finds himself rocketing down towards Ravazza. You can see there was one of the VXS Motorsports Fords. I believe that to be actually Martijn van Manen. Yes, the 148 on his way down through Ravazza. You can see just an absolute swarm of Fords here. It is Fords on deck, and matching the time verbatim of Gigi is Dean Ellis in the 69. And Gigi opens the taps up massively there. 37 thousandths of a second from the lead of this qualifying session. Incredibly close. Bear in mind, these are all points deciding positions here. 3 points up for grabs right off the bat before the start of round 1 for whoever takes pole position. So a lot on the chances here. Right now leading that charge, Exclusive Esports, is Andre Damrat. Try and catch on board with the 987, but we couldn't there just as he crossed the line. The 997 crosses the line a moment ago there. Melvin Milliston up to 5th. So it is really, really tough to try and keep up with everyone on track. Let's see if we can catch the 41 before they hit the line here. Anthony Valorio, we saw him earlier on today on the broadcast weekend on TRTN. We saw him over on the HCCL GT4 Challenge, as a matter of fact, driving for McLaren. He's 27th on the field at this time. 6.5 minutes left to go. It has been an incredibly tough start for a lot of drivers today. We see off in the background there, I believe that was the 441. So that was, as a matter of fact, the MSA car of Benjamin Hooper, down in 35th, yet to have set a time, and this is not the way to start one's qualifying endeavours. Down at the Variante Tamburello, already into a spot of bother. Up front, the gap between Gigi and Damrat, 37 thousandths of a second. Looking further around the field for where gaps could be at their closest. It's 8 thousandths between Ericsson and Lichka for 9th position on this grid. Then it's 8 thousandths between Lichka and Mason for 10th place. So this is incredibly tight inside of that top 10. You're talking a grand total right now of 13 drivers within a second of Andre Damrat's leading time. We just seen an exchange of position. I never thought I would see the day here that Andre Damrat got dethroned, but Wilson Gigi has done the seemingly impossible. A 140.015 puts himself 420 thousandths of a second ahead of Andre Damrat. We've just seen recent improvements there, I believe, for, looking at it here, Tyler Vermack, now up to 7th in the 998. We also saw improvements there for Toby Cyril. He finds himself 4th for VXS Motorsports. Right now, we do have quite an interesting accolade in that top 6. All of them represent different teams. They're Fats GT, Exclusive, SRC, VXS, and Velocity, and Simplay. So that's from Gigi, Damrat, Ellis, Cyril, Milliston, and Clouden. That is mind-bogglingly fast. I'm not even clear how the laws of physics may allow for such a time there by Wilson Gigi. That is brutal. If anyone in their right mind can come on and take that time away from him, then surely that is the most deserved pole position I think we'll ever see. Up and around turn 7, right now trailing on the BMW there, one of the Onid cars, as a matter of fact. Let's see if we can catch on board with who precisely that is. I believe it to be the 991. So having a look here, that being Rob Appleton on his way out through Piratella. Real struggles for BMW. Hard break for them. The fastest of the BMWs right now is Joachim Eriksson. Finds himself 10th fastest in the 333. A real tough day for the start of the championship. No one's complaining, though, over a Ford. So right now, where it stands with 4 minutes left to go, it's Wilson Gigi from Andre Damrat, Jake Garrett, Dean Ellis, and Toby Cyril in that top 5 amongst a swarm of drivers on today's grid. We've still yet to see a time from the driver all the way at the back here, Benjamin Hooper, still looking to impress with limited time in this 15-minute qualifying session as we close on the last 4 of said minutes. He's still yet to put a time on the chart, so a lot of pressure here in the opening round for MSA's current only entry. Following with the 333 up next on his way out of Ravazza. Following him is the 33. So we'll be seeing improvements perhaps on the table here for Joachim Eriksson and for Matthias de Munster with Frantic and Blaze. On his way to the line then goes Eriksson from 11th. Can he get up and ahead of Van Manen? Yes, he does. Up to 10th and ahead of the 148. Let's see what the 33 can do. Matthias de Munster couldn't find an improvement on that last lap. Stays in 22nd. You can see the gaps, though, are incredibly slim for him at this time. It's an 8 thousandth per second gap between himself and Exclusive's Finn Gombert in the 788 Porsche. 3 minutes left to go then, and it feels like every minute ticks by like an hour here in this qualifying session. Any which way you look is action, no matter where. Flitzer Flop on his way to the line from 29th, only has to find a few hundredths to put himself up a few positions on his teammate Matthew Copsey in 27th, and he does so, and then some. Up and ahead of Patrick Leger, up to 25th on that last lap just gone. 2 minutes 40 left to go. Next toward the line at this time is the number 998. It's Tyler Vermack, one of the 2 budding drivers of last season on the Sunday League. It was him and his teammate Melvin Milliston that ultimately clashed heads for the season championship. Now he finds himself racing alongside Milliston at the Velocity Racing team. So down to the line goes Vermack in the 998. Needs to find a few hundredths of a second there on an improvement over Jamal Clouden. And the number 36 up ahead of him in 7th place. Narrowly grazes the 273, I should say, on his way down towards the Variante Tamburello. 996 having crossed the line a moment ago. 997 here, we can see is Melvin Milliston in 6th place. He gets down towards the line, yet to find a way into the top 5 at this time. Frustration for Milliston and Velocity. They find themselves so close, yet so far away at this time. 500ths of a second, a little under actually, as a matter of fact, 500ths of a second between themselves and Dean Ellis in the SRC Motorsports Lexus. Next to the line on what appears to be a valid time here, the number 789. Let's see if we can catch on board before the end of their lap with just how big the list is at this time. It's one of the exclusive cars on their way to the line as we speak, and that's Andre Damrat. Finds himself off the mark here. VXS Motorsports as Toby Cyril has pushed him down a peg to third place. Cyril puts himself in second by 405 thousandths of a second to Wilson Gigi, maintaining the perimeter of that Ford 1-2-3 in the opening qualifier. A minute left to go, so it is really all or nothing now, next to the line on a valid time. And this is according just to that track map, so of course there will be some slight inaccuracies amongst it. But here's Jamal Clouden in the 36 for Simplay Racing on his way to the line with McLaren from 7th, crosses the line sadly to no improvement. He still finds himself dangerously close to Tyler Vermack behind him, 400ths between the pair of McLarens in 7th and 8th, making up that 4th row. And it is looking to be manufacturer domination, the worst case scenario for a lot of speculators and theorists alike over Ford Motor Company's domination of the front row. It's first, second and third here for Fats GT, VXS and Exclusive, all heralding the arrival of the 7th generation Mustang. Off in the foreground there, that was the 787 trouble or perhaps complacency at the end of qualifying for Chris Farish. 788, his teammate at Exclusive, is not far from the line here. Let's see if we can catch on board with the 788 before they hit the checkered line. Sadly not, it is just that large of a list. The 333, we know where this one is. Joachim Eriksson, currently just outside of that top 10. On his way down towards the line here for Frantic Motorsports at the end of quali for round 1 of the championship. Down to the line he goes, and up to 8th for his efforts there. 8 thousandths of a second ahead of Jamal Clouden. And with the 36 supposedly still out on track, there is opportunities here for the 36 to fight this one back and be on that 4th row for the opening round. The 441 is next to the line. Just reporting on when they hit the line there. The 441, that being the MSA entry, as a matter of fact, of Benjamin Hupert. We'll see exactly where he landed. 8th place, so better late than never for Hupert. Across the line behind him there goes, I believe that to be one of the K1 Esports cars at this time. That being the, actually no, it was the 979, so our mistakes there. So next toward the line, we can see amongst the valid runners here, the 998 of Tyler Vermack. Nigh impossible to give everyone the respect they deserve of that spotlight, but here we see down towards the line comes Tyler Vermack. We know what he's capable of on a good qualifying day. Is today one of those days here in the 998? On his way down towards the line, he goes up to 6th for the first qualifying session of the season. 992 on his way to the line as we speak. And sadly, we don't see the 992 on our heads up there, so sadly, we'll have to figure out where he is later on. The 41, not far from the line as we speak here. Anthony Valorio to the line from 31st. 28 for the end of qualifying. So an extensive list to cover here. The largest grid I think we've ever seen. But the bottom line, Wilson Gigi on pole position for Fats GT for the first round of the championship. That is a great start, all things considered, for Fats on a high note already. Bear in mind, an hour of racing still set to follow here in Imola. It's going to be all hands on deck to deliver on a good starting result. And you can see just the breadth of the grid we have today. 35 cars in all. One of the, if not the largest grid I think I've ever seen as a commentator. This is going to be absolutely mega. All hands on deck today. Eyes on the back of your head. A real tough day though for BMW. You really got, it gets to a point where you start to feel a little bit sorry for them there. The best they could do with the M4 came out of Joachim Eriksson, and he's 10th fastest. But of a 35-car grid, to be in that top 30%, nothing to scoff at for the opening qualifier. But BMW definitely up against the ropes. 2 minutes then before the start of the formation lap here, and heralding a 35-car grid. Let's get right into the thick of it then. Wilson Gigi on pole position. Alongside him on the front row is Toby Cyril. Andre Damrat in 3rd and Jake Garrett in 4th place, ahead of Dean Ellis and Tyler Vermack. Ben Rook in 7th and Melvin Milliston in 8th position, ahead of Ben Hupert and Joachim Eriksson in 9th and 10th place. Jamal Clouden in 11th ahead of Tadeusz Lichka in 12th place. Martijn van Manen in 13th ahead of James Mason in 14th. Jan Bettentrup in 15th position for a K1 14-15 start at this time. Puts himself ahead of Freno Radic in 16th place and Ian Skeen in 17th. Finn Gomber in 18th position ahead of Harry Thompson in 19th, Chris Farish in 20th and Matthias de Munster in 21st. Levi Warner 22nd with Rob Appleton in 23rd. Nico, let's just quickly check how we say this again, just to pay some respects here. Nico Schaska in the 992 puts himself 24th and ahead of Chris Grad. Lee Hemming in 26th ahead of Flitzer Flop in 27th. Anthony Valorio in 28th. and Matthew Copsey for a High Caliber Racing 27, 28 and 29th. He puts himself ahead of Patrick Leger, who rounds out the top 30, Nicholas Dahl in 31st, and Neil Wagstaff in 32nd, I should say, not 22nd there, 32nd, ahead of Paul Schultz in 33rd, Daniel Carborg in 34th, and to round out this incredibly large grid, Ellison Williams in 35th. I mean, monolithic proportions don't really quite cut it, do they? We're on to that 30-second warning, so we're on board now with Wilson Gigi, the man on pole for the first round of the XCL Pro Series. He'll be taking us away then on our run around the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari. And really, you got to start thinking, this could get very, very ugly. We've seen starts at Imola before on grids smaller than this, and it doesn't often end well, especially on that run through Tamburello. Now, of course, these are all professionals. I think we ought to give them the respect that professionals command, but you can never deny what is a seemingly universal truth of motor racing, and that is lap one will bring blood with it. Make that as a guarantee. As we head down towards turns 2, 3 and 4, Wilson Gigi then, the man on pole position, picks up an additional 3 points before the first race has even officially started. So already on a high note there for the Fats GT team. Behind him there, Toby Cyril and Andre Damrat. A Ford 1, 2, 3 there from 3 different teams. And moreover, looking further down the line, the top 6 teams are all from different teams on the grid. Looking further down the order here, we can see down towards the back of the top 10. Milliston in 8th, Hoopert 9th, Ericsson in 10th, Clouden just outside, and joined by Lichka from 12th place backwards. Looking towards the back of the field here, we can see with Carborg, Schultz and Williams towards the back of this, they might actually find themselves in a bit of a precarious spot on the track, as they could stand to gain a few positions on that race start on the grounds that they can surf whatever debris is kicked in their faces out through the Variante Tamburello. You see Ericsson starting in the top 10, so a great start for Frantic. Behind him there, Simplay Racing's Jamal Clouden and Tadeusz Lichka. Martijn van Manen with VXS Motorsport 13th there towards the back of the field. His teammate heralds the top 3 at this time. Toby Cyril on the front row alongside Wilson Gigi. For Andre Damrat, he was looking very likely at pole position, but it seems to be an unstoppable performance from the 23 today. In the pre-race practice sessions we were seeing coming into round 1 of the championship, there was a lot of hope, a lot of optimism there for Andre Damrat. Of course, long-time viewers of TRTM will remember Andre Damrat did win right here in Imola at the opening round of the NLRL Console Endurance Series, so we know what his capacity is like in the Mustang at Imola. This is very familiar ground he's treading upon. So to see himself down on the second row, it's got to be a little bit demoralising from the start, but really when you're at the bottom here with no points on the chart, the only place you can go is up. And I imagine that's something he'll be carrying with him for the start of today's race. Down towards the Variante Alta then, this is going to be a bloodied and brutal section of the track when you've got 35 cars rushing through it like a flow of molten steel. This is going to be, well, something. We do hope that you bear with us on just how god-awful the menu navigation is here on ACC. As a matter of fact, we can't go back to the garage, so we will have to stick things out on track. Let's see if we can catch on board here. Apologies for the bit hasty nature of trying to get on board with Wilson Gigi, but we always like to be up front for the race start. And with an hour against the clock here in Imola, without further ado, so begins the slow crawl to the start-finish line. The lights will soon yet go green for the opening round of Season 2 of the XCL Pro Series Championship here from Imola. It is a great pleasure to be involved with the making of such a brilliant championship then. With 35 cars on track, only one will be crowned winner today with an hour against the clock. 35 in all as we go on the slow procession down towards the line. The next 10 weeks, or next 20 weeks I should say, will be absolutely jam-packed here. And this is the very start of it. Without further ado, 35, actually, I believe looking there, yes, 35 cars in all for round 1 of the championship. Here in the XCL Pro Series, we are green and racing, an hour against the clock, and a brilliant start from Wilson Gigi. A brilliant start as well, as we see already 3 abreast between Jake Garrett, Andre Damrat, and Toby Cyril down towards turns 2, 3, and 4 for the first time. And this is where it could all go horribly, horribly wrong, but it hasn't yet gone horribly wrong for the 4-4-1 here of Benjamin Hooper. Finds himself up a few positions, much to the chagrin of the Lexus there. I believe that to be Dean Ellis for the start of this race. Knocked down a peg from the race start. You can see the grid going absolutely haywire. The bottom line, though, Wilson Gigi leads the charge. Andre Damrat second, Jake Garrett third, Toby Cyril in fourth, and Tyler Vermack in fifth. Ben Rook in sixth place, Melvin Milliston in seventh, Benjamin Hooper in eighth place. A brilliant start by the 4-4-1. Ninth place for Tadeusz Lichka and Jamal Clouden up to the top 10. Joachim Eriksson pushed down a peg to 11th place. Dean Ellis has dropped behind massively there. He's down to 12th, but right on his trails there, you can see James Mason, Martijn van Manen. We can also see as well, and Finn Gombert. Actually, speaking of Martijn van Manen, I believe, yes, he's been pushed way down there now as he's updated. So it's just Mason and Gombert, then Bettentrup, then Radic. An incredibly hurried grid here. Ericsson v Ellis down towards the Varianti Alta for the start of this race. This is all in contention for that fight of 11th place. Ericsson holds his nerve for the time being. Further up the line, we can see things get very close between Garrett and Damrat. 3/10 at the last interval there as they make their way into Ravazza for the first time, but already soaring away there. Already building a very healthy gap. Wilson Gigi in the 23 forward. Then Damrat, then Garrett, Cyril, Vermack, Milliston, Rook, Hooper, Lichka and Clouden in the top 10, of course. And then Ericsson, Ellis, Mason, Gombert and Bettentrup in the top 15. You see here, it's going to get very, very close in a moment's time. Further up the order here between the BMWs and the Lexus. Dean Ellis tries to get his elbows out here on Joachim Eriksson down into the Varianti Tamburello as we enter what is provisionally lap one of this race. The 69 gets the leg up there and is up into 11th place. Down towards turns 5 and 6 we go. The Varianti Villeneuve, and he's held that still. With Ericsson now behind, forced into the iron sights of James Mason. A great start by the K1 Esports team, but we can see trouble further down the line. The yellow flags are out. It's for the 787. Serious disaster for Chris Farish. So the first of our major casualties here in Imola was actually before him. It was Patrick Leger. Starts from seemingly in that pit lane, still there as we speak. Chris Farish ran into trouble out through the Varianti Tamburello. The newest victim to be added to that list appears to be the 979, that being of Flitzer Flop for the High Caliber Racing team. I think the worst is still yet to come here for major incidents on track. 3 minutes in, and we can see it is a myriad of battles to sample here. Not only in that top 10, but around the field. We can actually see one of the closest intervals appears to be Gombert v Bettentrup. K1 versus exclusive, like the olden days here, out through the Varianti Alta. The 92 versus the 788. Any which way you look, there will be steel on this circuit. Further behind them, we can see very close fighting between the two members of the Euro Titans esports team. Ian skiing up the inside of his teammate. Contact between himself and Freno Radic. What a way to start the race then for the Euro Titans team. Clashing arms with your own drivers. That is really quite something. That gives Harry Thompson the leg up here on Freno Radic to get side by side with his fellow Ferrari on the run out of turn 19. Down towards turn 1 for the start of the next lap coming. Thompson now still in the procession to get past Freno Radic as we head down towards the Varianti Tamburello. Can he solidify the move here? Is Freno Radic going to try and run it around the outside? He is going. He's digging deep there, and the number 98 stays in position. Matthias de Munster looks to get a handful here on Harry Thompson. Right behind him is Rob Appleton with Onid Racing. This is all going on at the back of that top 20. This is all in contention for just 18th place. And contact there between de Munster and Appleton. The first of our major contacts there, and once again, it happens down at one of the Variantis. This time, the Varianti Villeneuve at turns 5 and 6. Further up the road, we can see all manner of thing kick off here. This is namely right now looking that's actually looking there. Matthew Copsey. He's at the head of a fight here with the 992 of Shaska. Nico Shaska there with Onid Racing, one of the substitute drivers for the 992 Porsche. Down towards the Aqua Minerale then. Right now, Copsey holds his nerve. We've seen Copsey before here at Imola. We know what he's capable of. Admittedly, we've not seen it yet in GT3. There's time, first time I should say, for everything. Down towards Varianti Alta, a bit of trouble there for Copsey as he almost surfs both of those curbs there, trying to play the safe line, not trying to upset the balance of the car. We know how easy it is to upset the balances of the Ferrari out through the Varianti Alta. Behind them, we can see already some fighting here. Martijn van Manen up against Matthias de Munster. This is for 21st place between VXS and Blaze. Looking further up the road, we can see very close fighting here between Toby Cyril and Tyler Vermack down towards the Varianti Tamburello. Vermack, we know already firsthand from several seasons watching him what he's capable of in a close-knit fight. And with Toby Cyril, these two have once shared a grid before, so reunited under the veil of the Pro Series Championship. This is set to be an incredibly exciting fight here, up for 4th place. Let's stay on board with Vermack and Cyril as they make their way out of the Varianti Villeneuve. On board right now with the number 998 in that fight for 4th place. So a brilliant start by all accounts to this race. Wilson Gigi continues to open that gap. Now 1.9 seconds between himself and Andre Damrat. Jake Garrett in 3rd. Toby Cyril in 4th. Very, very close stuff still. But the closest of those fights inside the top 5 right now. Vermack v Cyril, 4th place. 3/10 of a second at that last interval. They make their way into Aqua Minerale. You can see the very cool, very calm disposition here of the 998. He's just gauging the 147 ahead of him, stalking him through each corner, gauging where's his weak points, where's his strong points, and how do they relate to mine. 53 minutes left to go. We're only scratching the surface of what has been a fantastic start to today's race. Heading down towards Ravazza, he knows functionally he's got 2, perhaps 3 at a push, major attacking spots on a driver like Toby Cyril. We've seen Cyril's performance before. He's no fool when it comes to a good fight. He knows precisely where he needs to position himself. So much as a case we'll see throughout the season, it is the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. This time, it plays out for 4th. Could yet play up for 3rd. Jake Garrett is losing time to Andre Damrat and subsequently losing time on his gap ahead of Toby Cyril. We could be seeing in a moment's time a 3-way fight for a podium position. Let's not discredit what's going on right behind them as well. Tyler Vermack's teammate Melvin Milliston's got his hands full with Benjamin Hooper, who is on a warpath start. I want to point this out. It wasn't the greatest qualifying overall for Hooper. Spent a lot of time there flagging around at the back of the timing charts. Now finds himself not only a staple part of the top 10, but an active combatant for a top 5 finish. This early on, this kind of intensity needs to be studied. He and Milliston are closing the gap to Vermack, who finds himself as part of a very long-winded concertina for 3rd place right now. Jake Garrett can hold centre mass of the road all the way down to Ravazza and not run the risk of losing his position to Cyril or Vermack. Neither of them would dare to try and move that ballsy. Down towards Aqua Minerale, Vermack's still in pursuit, but he's stuck really in the back of this train for 3rd place for the time being. You can see it's not going to stop him from at least tempting the idea of a suicidal lunge down through the Varianti Alta. We know it's possible. We've been proven that it's possible. As a matter of fact, the man who proved it possible was Ian Skeen. He's down in 15th place. Finn Gombert's right in front of him, who in turn is chasing down Jan Bettentrup, and Joachim Eriksson, who's now down another position courtesy of James Mason, up to 11th and 1 step closer to a K1 top 10 finish. Jamal Clouden is the only driver who stands in his way at that last interval with 7/10 of a second. You can see, though, doesn't take an expert to tell you that that's a lot closer than the data would indicate. Looking back up into that fight for 3rd. Now we're on board with Toby Cyril. This is the fight for 3rd on our hands we're talking about, and getting on board now with VXS Motorsports is Toby Cyril on his run down towards the Varianti Tamburello. He starts to the outside here. He's going to try for a very ambitious start of this lunge. He shoved us under there and gives it right back. A proper shoulder check by the 147, I should say. But to his efforts, he has now dropped behind not only Vermack, but his teammate Melvin Milliston. That was a shoulder check had ever I seen one. That's boisterous from the 147. He now finds himself subject to not only inquiry from the stewards later on today, but right on to the nose of Benjamin Hooper. Now up to 6th place. He is on an unstoppable crusade for a top 5. MSA may only have 1 car in round 1 of the championship. That has not stopped them from stealing the spotlight here in round 1 of the championship. Let's get a look around the field, though. We can see another very close fight set to kick off in a moment's time. James Mason versus Jamal Clouden. We also see, having dropped all the way down quite a bit there, Jake Garrett now finds himself behind Ben Rook and ahead of Tadeusz Lichka. Joachim Eriksson down in 12th. We can see Jan Bettentrup in 13th. Ian Skeen's in pursuit as well, as he's now up and ahead of Finn Gombert. See trouble at this time, seemingly for maybe a There's a little bit of an error there with the data. Never mind. We can see James Mason, though, is eyeing up that move for the top 10. This is all riding on the line. Vital positions from the start. Ian Skeen picks up a drive through, and so too does Frano Radic. Double trouble for the Euro Titans esports team. This is not a way to start a championship off. Both of them will be seeing the pit lane way earlier than the rest of that grid. Bear in mind, minimum 25-second stop in this championship. You can see peeling into the pits in the background there is the 313 Aston Martin. We're on board with James Mason, though, in the fight for 10th place. This is incredibly close between the two as they rocket down towards the Variante Tamburello. Is Mason looking for the inside? No. Switches it for the outside here, trying to throw a bit of a dummy into the mix here against Jamal Clouden with Simplay Racing. And for his efforts, he's had a better exit of Tamburello. So now on the run down towards Villeneuve. This could be his first striking point before we even hit Tosa. Down towards turn 5. Comes turn 6 in a moment's time. Clouden versus Mason. Bettentrup in the background and following Joachim Eriksson. You can see there, Bettentrup was looking for the inside on Eriksson as well, out through Tosa. Still, rather begrudgingly, Mason finds himself behind Clouden. We'll take a look on board at the moment. Away from Mason, just as we head in towards Piratella. We're watching now through Aqua Minerale with Benjamin Hooper in pursuit of Toby Cyril. The 147, of course, did that shoulder check earlier on against Jake Garrett with Euro Titans. He's now down in 7th place, actually not too far away from these two as we speak, and they're both closing in at rapid pace here. Reckless abandon on their pursuit of Melvin Milliston and Tyler Vermack. It's a velocity 3 and 4. Up front, though, it's Fatch from Exclusive on the front row. An all-Ford front row, an all-McLaren second row, and all-Ford third row. So, really, you want to talk about dominant manufacturers? Here's your two targets. You can see Vermack giving his teammate a little bit of that slipstream as we head down the opening straight out through turn 19 in towards turn 1 to start the next lap of today's race, lap 7 on our way into the Variante Tamburello. But Trizy May just can't find enough pace off of the two Mustangs. We know that the Ford Mustang is the, well, among the fastest, I want to point this out, cars in ACC. Now, this is something we're going to draw back from yonkers ago now. This was back in our time a few seasons back in the Sunday League, and we have this data to hand because it plays a vital role in dictating how fast these cars are, how we can perceive that data. And this was data taken from Monza, another Italian track, and this brings up the fastest top-end speeds we were able to observe between turns 11 and turn 1, and it gives us a very clear indication. Ford, BMW, Lexus, and Aston Martin's V12 Vantage are primary targets for being fastest here. Those are the 4 cars you do not want to run into down a straight at any cost here. And right now, it is really the worst case scenario for Milliston because he has 2, not 1, but 2 Fords barreling down on him for 4th place. The world's weight on his shoulders there to defend for his teammate Tyler Vermack. These two shared a fierce rivalry over on the Sunday League. Now here in the Pro Series, they've got to work together. Out through the Variante Alta, that was shaky between all 3 of them there. I'm not surprised if that's going to be the area where drivers pick up the majority of those drive-throughs. We already saw 2 of them for Radic and Skeen with the Euro Titans team earlier on today. I don't think we've seen the end of it here in Imola. Down towards Ravazza, running deep there, Toby Cyril, but following his line is Ben Hooper. Jake Garrett not too far away at all. He's the sole survivor of the Euro Titans team now, the only one left in that top 10. Right now, Velocity Racing, I believe, are the only team with all of their cars inside of the top 10. That being Vermack in 3rd, Milliston 4th, and Tadeusz Lichka in 8th place. That's quite the accolade for the season start. Very wise then that they suggested maybe don't count out the VRT team. It wasn't that we were trying to count them out. We just simply forgot. And with the scope this wide, you really couldn't forget. You couldn't really blame us for forgetting. 46 minutes left to go. We're nearly a quarter of an hour into this race, and it shows absolutely zero sign of slowing down. Right now, a 4-car train for 3rd place. Let's see if we can get a look further down the field to see where our next fights are also coming from. You're not exactly spoilt for choice because most of these drivers find themselves at least within 7/10 of a second of one another. A few outlying cases here and there, but really it is a cornucopia of available battles on track. We can see further down the line Harry Thompson currently charging towards Finn Gombert with Exclusive Esports. Behind him is Matthew Copsey, and we can see there that being Nico Shaska in the number 992. Levi Warner behind him there in the 423 Mustang. You can see among the drivers having taken their pit stop, Matthias de Munster, Patrick Leger, Neil Wagstaff, and Martijn van Manen. See Ben Rooks into the pit lane as well. Bear in mind, a minimum 25-second stop. So a lot of these drivers, we will see them return to that top 15, that upper 50% of today's grid. This is playing for the longer strategy. It's not uncommon to see drivers go for a much, much earlier pit stop in an hour-long race. We've actually seen it earlier on today, and it paid off massively. That was for Timo de Tosto over on HCCL. So a lot of these drivers are mimicking that strategy. Earlier pit stops there, it gives them a lot of free space in the early part of this race. Down towards turn 1. Now comes turns 2, 3, and 4. We're still watching with the bulk of that fight in the top 5. That has really stolen away the show here for Mac, Milliston, and Cyril. All down through the Varianti Tamburello. Right behind them, Ben Hooper and Jake Garrett. Looking on that field right now, we can also see Chris Grad not too far away from Paul Schultz. This is just hanging around out the back of the top 20. They find themselves 6 tenths apart. 2 tenths apart at the moment here on what could be a fight. We did see that Copsey was ahead of Thompson. Thompson now having got ahead of Copsey. We could see some fight back here from one of the high caliber racing cars. Harry Thompson with SRC now up to 15th. Down towards the Varianti Villeneuve. Ferrari 15 and 16. So for all intents and purposes, I've got to tell you folks, this is exhaustive, this list of battles going on. You're really not spoiled for it. So it's all about having the eye to see it. And sadly, my vision's not so great. So once again, my apologies if we're missing fights here. But with 35 cars, most of which separated by less than a second of one another, you'd forgive perhaps a few incorrections. Down towards the Aqua Minerale then, Matthew Copsey still in pursuit. We can see that Finn Gomber is lagging behind here. He's losing a lot of time to Harry Thompson. Heading down towards the Varianti Alta. Bear in mind, Thompson being pushed back by the 788 gives a little extra wiggle room here for Copsey and Shaska. 16th and 17th, Levi Warner not too far away either. We could be seeing a 5-car fight here at the back of the top 15. That really goes to great lengths to explain the sort of grandiose nature of this all, this breadth of talent we've got here, where you've got 5 cars, 15th all the way down to 20th, scrapping for position. In fact, this is for 14th now we're talking about. So out through Ravazza on their way towards turn 19. Finn Gombert's got it up against him here to fight for 14th place on the grid. Dean Ellis, who's up the road in 13th, relaxes there 2.3 seconds away from the madness occurring behind him in his rear view mirror. You can see, though, and I want to pay attention to this, there was a brief exchange of position here. Jake Garrett and I believe Tadeusz Lichka as Milliston runs into serious trouble. That's what the problem was. Milliston drops down several positions there. Trouble over, and looking at it here, just piecing together exactly what's happened. That was down at the Varianti Tamburello. He finds himself down in 8th place. Behind him there, you can see it's Jamal Clouden and James Mason. Joachim Eriksson finds himself as part of a BMW 3-car train here, 10th to 12th, sandwiched in between the 2 K1 Esports cars of James Mason and Jan Bettentrup. Let's get a look back in with that fight, though, going on for 14th place. We can see here with Harry Thompson as one of those cars involved. 294 in pursuit of Gombert, Copsey and Shaska behind him. We may have to get on board here with Copsey in a moment's time, because Shaska is right on top of him for 16th place. It was seemingly an incident there for earlier on, just re-reporting what happened for Milliston down at Tamburello. We saw the pieces of it be picked back up down at Villeneuve. He's now dropped down to 8th place. He was up in that top 5 for a little while there. Yeah, that seems to really be the rule of the day here. We've just seen suggested in chat there by Claude is sneeze and you lose 5 positions. That really is how tightly packed in all of these drivers are, like sardines on this grid today. Nearly 20 minutes in, and the battling has yet ceased here. There's no stopping. It's just utter madness. Steel every which way you look. You can see here with Thompson, he's catching up to Gombert. Right behind you can see 2 battles for the price of one here. Copsey v Shaska. Up in front, you've got Thompson versus Gombert. On both sides of it, it's Porsche versus Ferrari. Seen more trouble this time for Toby Cyril. He's dropped behind Jamal Clouden. Now looking to fight that position back into Tosa. And there, he has forced Clouden out wide, so he's got the inside line past the apex up through turn 7, and now he's able to let that 5.4 litre V8 sing uphill as we head towards Piratella. Turn 8, now turn 9, and Cyril on the comeback drive here. He's also caught up in something because he, like Milliston, has dropped behind. We've just seen their confirmation as to what happened. Contact sent Milliston around. So Toby Cyril down towards the Variante Alta. He's back on the comeback drive then. First on his list was Jamal Clouden, and it has put James Mason up to the top 10. Now, this is peculiar because he was previously hanging around in 11th. He was charging towards Jamal Clouden for control of 10th place. So it does beg the question, what on earth happened to put a driver out of commission here? And it does appear to be the case that there could have been a disconnect. We have seen it suggested, but we don't actually have any evidence to hand at this time. So no disconnects right now. All 35 drivers accounted for. That was confirmation from race control. So a bit of a peculiar change in events there. See the Copsey now catching up to Gombert, who's side by side. We've caught them right in the middle of this one. Harry Thompson fighting for 14th place, I should say, with Finn Gombert. Exclusive versus SRC. Now Gombert's backed up onto the high caliber racing Ferrari of Matthew Copsey in the 97, and Levi Warner right with them as well. Right behind him there is Nico Shaska. It's a 5-car fight down at the Variante Villeneuve. This is all, by the way, for 14th place on the grid, and the intensity is nuclear amongst these drivers here. Around the outside for Shaska at turn 7. Can he get the leg up here on Levi Warner for 17th place? Bear in mind, it's 6 cylinders against 8. Flat versus V. Up the hill we go towards Piratella. Right now, the 992 takes home 17th for the time being. As we enter turn 9. So, after nearly half of the race already gone, let's get a look at the grid at large here. Wilson Gigi in first, Andre Damrat second. And there, seemingly in third place is Jake Garrett. Then Tyler Vermack, then Ben Hooper, Tadeusz Lichka, Melvin Milliston, Toby Cyril, Jamal Clouden, and James Mason. Now, we don't know whether or not that was either a case where Garrett has quite silently snuck back into the charge here for a podium, or whether or not it's been a case where the data has stopped reading correctly, or my eyes do deceive me. But yes, it does read that Jake Garrett is in third place. Damrat second. So great turnaround for Euro Titans. I did say they were the last of the Euro Titans cars to be in that top 10. There was a great misfortune for his teammates in Skeen and Freno Radic, both of them with drive-through penalties. We see now into the pit lane as well is Levi Warner. He jumps out of that fight after losing out position to Nico Shaska. Now sizing up a chance here on Matthew Copsey. Up the road there, you can see Finn Gombert and Harry Thompson. Very, very close stuff here for 14th place. And Dean Ellis may not be so safe as he believes right now. You can see the gap at this time. They are quickly closing ground to him. They're only a single corner away as they make their way down towards turn 7. You can see the intensity has not left Gombert in this time. A little bit of a stutter there out through turn 7 for him. But the idea to get himself up on the inside was there. Copsey right behind him there. You can see further down the line the two owned cars of Shaska and Appleton. Right behind them is Nicholas Dahl with Frantic Motorsports. Paul Schultz rounds out the top 10 for Stilo. And see that charge out through Aqua Minerale. Thompson from Gombert, Copsey, Shaska and Appleton down towards the Variante Alta. Hanging in the balance here, results on the charts for SRC, Exclusive Esports, High Caliber and Owned. As well, hanging around behind the two owned cars, as mentioned before, Nicholas Dahl with Frantic Motorsport. See behind them as well, the 273, Paul Schultz. Seemingly under fire here from the 78 of Chris Grad. Looking up the inside as we head towards Ravazza. He has to back out there. He did have the inside for turn 18. Into the pits in front of him goes Matthew Copsey. We are going to start to see here in the next 10 minutes that bulk of our pit stops come up and around that halfway mark. Already in the pits at the moment, Ericsson, Copsey and Grad. We'll keep a live tracker on that as and when they roll through. 149 is coming in now at this time as well. So let's see if we can catch on board. And that's with Ellison Williams with VXS Motorsports. We do have yellow flags and it looks pretty catastrophic. And it was down, so I'm told here,
at the Variante Villeneuve. You can see there one of the casualties, Dean Ellis with SRC Motorsports. There was contact down at turns 5 and 6. And for the number 69, he finds himself now behind that seemingly, the 273. That is Paul Schultz. He's down in what is right now 18th position. We'll wait for that update. Back in the green flag conditions for the time being. 34, just under 35 minutes left to go. And the battling has continued on their run in towards Aqua Minerale. It has yet ceased, was the words I was trying to get out of my system there, but really it has been a case, there's so much information that you're starting to get a little bit of brain fog after a certain amount of time here in the commentary box. It is really starting to weigh down, not only on us, but I can only imagine the intensity in each of these cars here. These drivers have got to really be up against it in terms of just processing what's going on in front of them. So the pit stop clarification there we got from XCL TV. Pit stop 25 seconds standing time, approximately 68 seconds without a tyre change. Coming into the pits goes, there you can see in front, the BMW of James Mason. Following him, Finn Gombert. Right behind him looks to be Nicholas Dahl in the 987. 34 minutes left to go. That makes 5 more drivers into the pit lane. As now joining them as well is Toby Cyril and Dean Ellis. Looking up front, Wilson Gigi has had a pretty leisurely drive, all things considered. That number 23 has disappeared from the word go. He's not been contended with since that first lap. It has been easy and breezy, really, for the 23. He's been able to have quite a relaxing day here, owing to his talents as a driver. You can see here, Andre Damrat currently trying to make his way around one of the, I believe that's one of the high-caliber Ferraris, if I'm not mistaken, Matthew Copsey. Now having exited the pits. Jake Garrett in 3rd, Tyler Vermack in 4th, Benjamin Hooper in 5th, Tadeusz Lichka up to 6th. So right now for Velocity, they still hold that accolade. Actually, MSA has now entered that argument because technically, yes, they only have 1 car in round 1. That does account for every member of the team right now. So there's 2 to have found themselves inside of that top 10 respectively. We do have news here for Toby Cyril. The first of our stop-go 30-second penalties then. He's in 20th as he exits the pit lane. And now is going to have to come all the way back in after this lap. Now that has not gone well for Cyril. He had a phenomenal start to today's race. He was up on that front row, and it has all come asunder there. That has all but solidified Fats GT's domination of Imola here in round 1 of the championship. You got to feel sorry for him in a situation like that. That is heartbreaking for the 147. So we can see a clear divide down the middle here, almost exactly split down to half of the drivers yet to have taken their pit lane runs. That number is quickly dwindling. Next into the pits, Harry Thompson and Nico Shaska, the 294 and the 992 for SRC Motorsports and Onid Racing. 32 minutes left to go then. Let's see if we can catch on board with some of the next fights going on the field. And really, for the drivers yet to have pitted, you can see a clear change in mentality, because you look at the drivers who already have pitted and it is absolutely raw amongst them. Finn Gombert and Patrick Leger here fighting for 24th place on the field. Let's stay on board with the Lamborghini for just a moment here to try and take in just precisely what on earth is happening on today's grid. The number 9 holds his nerve here against Finn Gombert. Down towards the Variante Alta. Freno Radic into the pits as well. Bear in mind, him and Ian Skeen have yet to have actually taken legitimate pit stops. Of course, they had to take a drive-through penalty almost in unison earlier on in today's race. They'll find themselves seriously up against it. They'll be hoping for a top 20 finish by the end of round 1 today. We're watching with Leger into the pits then. In front of him, that goes Jake Garrett. So all of the Euro Titans cars starting to make that great consideration into the pit lane. We've already seen Radic, the only driver yet to have done so for Euro Titans, now being Ian Skeen in the 313 Aston Martin. He's down in 14th place at this time, and right in front of him there, Lee Hemming. 3 more cars into the pit lane then. Garrett, Lichka and Milliston, the only driver now from the Velocity team yet to have taken a pit stop, Tyler Vermack, who sits in 3rd place. We're watching with Patrick Leger all over his backside at the moment, Finn Gombert. These two will jump quite a few positions here on their way down towards turn 7. We'll wait for the update there on information. That is a big chunk of drivers there from 6th all the way down to 11th. They're all going to drop back now into the rest of that field, that being Garrett, Lichka, Betten, Trupp among them as well, Milliston, Appleton, Schultz and Farish. We're still watching with Leger and his fight against Gombert. This is fantastic stuff we're seeing here. You can see that's one of the velocity cars, as a matter of fact, right behind them. That being, I believe, the 998. So that's Tyler Vermack. Now jumping out of his way goes Finn Gombert. We're still on board with the number 9 of Patrick Leger, one of a handful of Lamborghinis in this race. We're halfway through round 1 of the championship, and the intensity has yet ceased here at Imola. We're still on board with Leger. Now having interceded the pair of them appears to be that 998, a careening Tyler Vermack. He is not saying no here to the opportunity for one more position. Blue flags or otherwise, he's coming for it and heading down into Ravazza. The number 9 has yet to yield. He knows what's at stake here. If he drops behind Vermack, no one can stand in the way between himself and Gombert. You can see right behind him as well. That's the 441. Diving for the pit lane goes Tyler Vermack. Following him on his way in is Benjamin Hooper. It's contact between the pair of them on the run into the pit lane. MSA collides with Velocity Racing Team. What on earth happened there? Let's see if we can get a look on our replays. The first time we've had to use that, I believe, all race. What on earth happened? You can see he got down into there. It was like, oh my goodness, I have to try and slow down. I have to try and slow down. You can see the car squirreling on his efforts to get on the brakes. I'm not really sure what's happened there. I think he was expecting for Mac to brake a lot later for the pit lane entry, but what on earth was that? You can see there, it's like, oh goodness, and then slammed. Well, that's a code brown for the 441 had ever I'd seen one. He's in the pits with Vermack right now. Andre Damrat in as well. Joining them is Jamal Clouden. That leaves Lee Hemming currently out on the circuit to go up to second place here for STR Esports. Of course, still yet to have taken his pit lane run, but he's not going to say no to being on the front row, whether or not the strategy has anything to do with it. We just seen there one of the suggestions in chat that did make me chuckle. Raikkonen Hamilton Canada-esque from Regent in chat. That is quite clever. So Lee Hemming up to second. It shows that he's 6th there, but it'll update in a moment's time. For STR Esports, he's on the front row in the number 19 BMW. So that has not gone well. I think the first of our captured major incidents didn't even happen necessarily on track. It happened in the pit lane. And you can see he's just going to have to live with the damages there. Hoopert's team decided, let's not repair the nose. I think it's a case where he's not damaged the steering. I don't think an impact of that scale would do that. The 997 now, Melvin Milliston, joins right behind him, as a matter of fact. The 441 now under siege from Melvin Milliston. Now, I believe, looking at it here as it updates, this is for 7th place. So let's stay on board with Melvin Milliston in his efforts to get around the 441 up in 7th place. We've seen the extent of the damage there for Ben Hooper, but what is the damage toll for Tyler Vermack? Right now, he finds himself reunited with another Velocity car. Instead of Milliston, it's Tadeusz Lichka in the 996. They're 5th and 6th right now. These are, of course, the two teams holding that coveted accolade of having all cars inside of the top 10, Velocity and MSA. But that was quite something on their run into the pit lane a moment ago. Melvin Milliston then picks up the rewards, but he's given a drive-through penalty through the Aqua Minerale. It has all gone horribly wrong. It's disaster for Velocity Racing Team. Their drivers are scattered amongst the middle of that top 10, and now they'll be without one of them as Melvin Milliston is set to come into the pits. This is not what they needed at all. Wilson Gigi, in the meantime, in and amongst the action here, has come into the pits. Lee Hemming does find himself up the road, so he is a brand new race leader here with the STR Esports team. The number 19 now leads that charge definitively for the time being. Right now, looking as to who holds that fastest lap, it's Wilson Gigi currently with the fastest lap of the race so far. And he could yet retake the lead of this race, but it has been a disaster scenario here for the Velocity Racing Team. They're really having to pick up the pieces and run with it because they find themselves right now with 2 drivers left in that top 10. You're seeing them both on the same stretch of tarmac. They could yet even fight for position, but of course now it's going to be damage control for Velocity. They want as many points on the chart coming out of round 1. This has definitely been a start to remember for them. As now, having served this drive-through penalty, Milliston drops well beyond the top 10. On board right now with Tyler Vermack. Right behind him, Tadeusz Lichka in the 996. Behind them, Benjamin Hooper. You can see the extent of the damage. So let's actually see. We'll have to wait for him to pass our cameras just to see what is the extent of the damage here for Tyler Vermack. and it's a lot less than what we saw on the 441. I think he's definitely come out very, very lucky there. In real life, that would have been both of them probably out of the race. With the amount of time left, their teams would have been hurriedly piecing their cars back together like a Lego set that you've just dropped on the floor on Christmas Day. But yeah, it's definitely been a lot lighter. You can see it's not without its problems. There's a lot of damage you can see there over the rear, but not enough to severely affect Vermac's endeavours in today's race. He will be more than happy, in my opinion, I'd say, with a top 5 finish, given what happens today. He could even be eyeing up top 4, perhaps even at a stab top 3, but he's got to really get a wriggle on now. 5.8 seconds at the last interval between himself and Jake Garrett, who's up in 4th. And I want to say that is a real turnaround. He has outlived every driver to stand in his way here. Jake Garrett in that 314, an immortal drive we've seen from him. We saw him get shoulder checked out of the Variantes in Sector 1 by, I believe it was Toby Cyril, if memory serves me correctly. It was one of the VXS cars. Actually, it could have been Van Martin, one of the two. We'll point it in both directions here, but the bottom line, we saw him get absolutely winged out of turns 2, 3, and 4. The fact that he's come back now and is going to be, after Lee Hemming pits, on the podium, fair play. Honestly, fair play. That's a deserved podium. That is commitment. That is grit. That is what you need in a championship like this. Looking further down the line, Lichka is catching up to Vermac. We'll catch them later on, though, as we can see a new fight emerge here. Levi Warner versus Harry Thompson. Right behind him, Matthias de Munster and Matthew Copsey. Nico Shaska rounds out that top 15 and is not too far away either. Let's see how it unfolds between these two. Now, bear in mind, unlike the two Velocity cars we saw from earlier on, these two don't have any pretenses not to fight. They are not trying to control damage here. They are looking for blood. They are looking for oil. They are looking for some crass mixture of whatever comes out of the car when you hit it hard enough. And heading down towards the Variante Alta, it's going to be SRC versus Fatch for 11th place. A differing line there. Harry Thompson, not sure how many more times he's going to be able to get away with that one before the stewards smite him down, as they have done with several drivers before. Levi Warner won't be particularly pleased knowing that he's been able to get away with that one. Down into Ravazza. He's now half a second away from Thompson in the 294. They exit Ravazza. Meanwhile, Lee Hemming is into the pit, so Wilson Gigi does retake the race lead. In second place, Andre Damrat. You can see in front of him there is one of the lapped cars. That's one of the owner's cars, if memory serves correctly. Jake Garrett in third, Tadeusz Lichka fourth. He actually did get up and ahead of Tyler Vermac, so I am genuinely rather surprised by how that's turned out. Lichka and Vermac now back into the fight for fourth place. You would have thought here that the Velocity Racing team strategist would be looking at the situation at large and just expect these two to sort of play nice, but no, the gloves are off. These two, they want that fight. They don't want resistance. Down towards Aqua Minerale. You can see Vermac could absolutely fight this one back here. He's had a much better of the two exits as they run uphill, though. He's going to find himself one of the prime victims here. That 5.4 litre V8 in the Ford Mustang, as he just rockets away from him. Puts a nice little bit of distance between the pair of them on the exit of the Variante Alta. Now down towards Ravazza. It's going to be the same story here. Vermac's going to have to cling to the coattails of his teammate in the hopes he can stay with come the run into the Variante Tamburello on the next lap coming. As we head down through Ravazza, he's just stuck at the start of that train. Meanwhile, behind them, the 441 of Hooper, very closely followed at this time by one of the lapped cars there. Lapped traffic, that being Paul Schultz with Stilo Esports. Let's get back on board, though, with Vermac and Lichka. And this is exactly what I'm talking about here. He's clinging to the slipstream, tooth and nail here. But that McLaren twin-turbo has got nothing on what Ford Performance has brought to the table. It is a juggernaut, that 5.4 litre. I'm not sure what they've been feeding that Ford, if not other cars, because that is ridiculously fast for naturally aspirated. So, could the speculators be correct here? Could we be imminent to an era of Ford domination? I think only time will tell us different. And of course, looking at the grand scope of this calendar, we're of course here for Imola on October 11th. You'll join us next on TRTN for rounds 4 and 5 over in November and December. The rest of the championship you'll be able to find over on XCL TV, and they do look forward to being with you for the majority of this championship, as it has been a real pleasure from us so far here on TRTN. We would not have missed the opportunity for the world, and what racing it has produced so far. And we've still 20 minutes, so what a treat we have here in Imola. And I would like to point out, in the meantime, whilst we've been watching with the Velocity duo, the gap between Damrat and Gigi after those pit stops has brought down massively. It is close to within a second of its last interval. There could yet be, I spoke quite clearly earlier on that it was quite an easy breezy drive for Fatch GT's Wilson Gigi, but now we've seen a very late stint of confidence from Andre Damrat. We've seen what he's capable of in other situations here in Imola, in this very same machine. And fun fact as well, of course we don't have images to provide at this time, but looking into the history of Andre Damrat's performance here in Imola, of course, when he competed before joining XCL, he was with a team called NLR Esports, and he competed in the Console Endurance Series on NLRL here in Imola in a Ford Mustang, and he actually ran the same livery and number during testing for this race. So he's channeling the energy of his career's past into that drive today, and with 19 minutes against the clock and the gap still within reach, we could see something seriously primal out of Andre Damrat. He's one of a Ford 1-2 right now here in Imola, and I think he's gunning for that prime position up front. Wilson Gigi looks to gain as many points as humanly possible, because he finds himself right now with an additional 3 points for that fastest lap, on top of the fact that he looks to be taking home the race win in about 18 minutes. We saw a momentary lapse there by Andre Damrat. The intensity is getting to him, and we see it with drivers. It doesn't matter how iron one's willpower is. It is very easy in situations like this for one's confidence to crack. Looking further down the line, just a moment here, as we do find trouble for Nico Shaska. He dropped back a massive distance there from Tamburello. Trouble for the 992, as he's now most recently overtaken for 21st by Patrick Leger with Simplay Racing. Something really untoward had to happen there for Shaska. He's dropped all the way out of that commission for the top 15. Looking further up the road here, we're going to quickly check in with Finn Gombert, fellow Porsche, in the 788, this time with Exclusive Esports. He's on his way down through the Aqua Minerale. Behind him, Nicholas Dahl and Rob Appleton. James Mason right on his tail here to put K1 in the top 15. Any which way you look, someone is having a fight. Battles are being lost and won every which direction. See side by side up the road there, Appleton and Dahl on their way down towards Ravazza. Appleton to the inside, so can he take on to 14th place here, trying to elevate his chances from inside the top 15. The 991 made that one look easy on his way down through turn 17. On the exit of turn 18, he's got that one solidified. Now, bear in mind, I want to bring back up that chart from earlier on. BMW find themselves in what is technically a joint second for the fastest cars in ACC, with an estimated top end on a lower downforce setup for 174 miles an hour. It proves that BMW, in the right conditions such as today, can be an absolute bullet. We see there with Appleton, once he got up past Dahl, it was just simple as keep the foot down and don't even worry about looking behind you. That Ferrari trying absolutely everything there, but the rather anemic V6 in the 296 is struggling to keep track with BMW. Of course, that Ferrari, in terms of ecological effects in a more endurance racing environment, it is an unparalleled machine. It is created, forged of the same materials that comprise Ferrari's 499p. But here in GT3, it finds itself in a little bit of a mixed bag for sprint racing. Endurance racing, I would say, this is functionally one of the best machines money can buy in the current day. But it is seemingly struggling here for Nicholas Dahl. Something is just not clicking with that 987. Nonetheless, he finds himself in the top 15. Now looking up the road here for Finn Gombert versus Rob Appleton. I want to point this out. Like we saw earlier on from Andre Damrat, we're seeing a real stint of confidence here from Rob Appleton with Oned Racing as he charges now to Finn Gombert. Very nearly contact between the pair of them. Gombert not leaving an inch here to spare, but I think it might be too late for him, because looking for the inside, just poking his nose there up on the rear quarter of Finn Gombert's 788 is the number 991 of Rob Appleton. Let's stay on board for a moment here with Appleton. On the exit of Ravazza, up the road you can see is Matthew Copsey with High Caliber Racing. It's rather ironic, isn't it, that Ferrari would be struggling on a track literally called the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari. The irony's not lost on Ferrari in in that kind of technical blunder. Up the inside goes Appleton, but oh my goodness gracious me. He's careening. He's all over the shop. He's like a bull in a china shop there in that BMW, but seemingly all of that has given him a rather nice little leap up into 13th. And Nicholas Dahl was looking to take the advantage there off of Finn Gombert. Let's look behind the pair here. Down towards Tosa, you can see it's a very clear line being formed here. Gombert, Dahl, Mason and Grad. 4 drivers there now lining up behind Rob Appleton. It's getting close here, and I get the feeling we could see a really explosive move yonder the horizon here in Imola as we drop to the final 15 minutes of racing, and we'll try and recount the full grid here. We're watching at the moment with Finn Gombert with XCL on his way down through Aqua Minerale. He currently is in that fight for 14th place. Functionally still in that fight for 13th right now with Appleton just up the road, but he is looking for that defensive fight of 14th. So Wilson Gigi leads the charge ahead of Andre Damrat, Jake Garrett in 3rd, and Talius Lichka up to 4th, Tyler Vermack in 5th place, Ben Hooper in 6th, Joachim Eriksson in 7th, Jamal Clouden in 8th, and Jan Bettentrup in 9th place. Harry Thompson rounds out the top 10 for SRC Motorsports. Levi Warner in 11th place, Matthew Copsey in 12th for High Caliber Racing, and then we see up the road there the white and purple BMW at the foreground of your screen, that being Rob Appleton. He's in 13th with Onid Racing. We're watching here with Finn Gombert in 14th. Behind him, Nicholas Dahl, James Mason and Chris Grad there. We actually did see a move for Mason, now up and ahead of Dahl for 15th. We could see yet another move here, so we'll cut away from Gombert as we see side by side between Chris Grad and Nicholas Dahl. Frantic versus Blaze, and that was tidy for the 78 there. Squeaky clean by Chris Grad. Then further down the order, we can see Melvin Milliston has taken the initiative here to get right up to the back end of Nicholas Dahl. Bear in mind, he had to take a stop. Was it a stop? No, it was a drive-through penalty for him there. It had all come asunder for Milliston after a series of incidents, this being most recently among them. Now finds himself scratching around towards the back of that top 20. It has not been the greatest start for the Velocity Racing team. They're doing the best they can, of course, still looking at 2 drivers inside of that top 5, but really they would have liked the whole pot to themselves inside of that top 10. You see here with Milliston, we know perfectly well what he's capable of in a race like this. Looking around the field here, we can see that is Jan Bettentrup on his way down towards Ravatza. Let's see if we can catch on board here with some of the drivers in and amongst the fray. James Mason now having most recently made his way up to the top 15, got ahead of Nicholas Dahl. Right behind him is Chris Grad and Dahl and Milliston on the exit of the Variante Alta. You can see here Lee Hemming looking to challenge Anthony Valorio and Daniel Karlborg, and Patrick Leger up for 24th place here on the exit of the Aqua Minerale. Hemming, of course, very briefly led today's race. You can see a massive difference in lines there. Yellow flags are out for the 273, so trouble for Paul Schultz, I believe, with the Stilo Esports team. Yes, he has come to a stop there on the side of the road. What has gone on there for Schultz? All the way at the back of the field, but was momentarily stopped on track. Green flags are back out with 12 minutes to spare. That was a bit of a bizarre one. So let's see if we can go and catch on board then with Melvin Milliston. He's caught right amongst the charge here of several drivers around the back of the top 20. We're on board with Milliston as he sizes up a charge here on Nicholas Dahl with Frantic Motorsports up the road. You can see Chris Grad with Blaze Motorsports and James Mason in the top 15 with K1 Esports. Down towards Tosa around the outside, we can see in the background as well Paul Schultz running into more trouble in the 273, but right now in our focal point around the outside, squeaky clean for Melvin Milliston. 11 minutes, 25 seconds left to go. This could be the start of a charge back to top 15 finishes for Melvin Milliston. Doing the best against serious damage to today's performance. I'll have to make the most of what he's got right now. He's actually in the number 997. You'll have to forgive us for the incorrections there on the graphic saying 68. That was originally the number he registered with, but he's since been changed over to the Velocity Racing Team standard configuration 997. Looking down the road, we can see Valorio and Hemming's fight continuing to spill over as they head in towards the Aqua Minerale. Of course, we did say earlier on today we were going to see Anthony Valorio again, and here he is in the 41, fighting in 26th. what remains to still be a 35-car grid, but we will have to catch up in a moment's time. Yellow flags are out. It's the 273 of Paul Schultz. You can see stopped on the left-hand side there, waiting for an opportunity to rejoin. We're still watching with Anthony Valorio on our way out of the Variante Alta, on our way down towards Ravazza. Back in the green flag conditions then. 10 minutes against the clock here. Anthony Valorio could have an opportunity as Daniel Karlborg runs a cropper out through Ravazza. That gives Patrick Leger the inside for 24th. Now for Anthony Valorio, it's side by side between himself and Daniel Karlborg. BMW versus McLaren, and another BMW riding on the trails there of Karlborg's 593. So I've got a recent clarification as well. The top 25 earn money, where of course we had the scoring charts up earlier. So what we're seeing right now, according to Klopter, this is for penny stocks in that top 25. So this is all still going to be a rewarding position. Now, originally, I think our scoring data we showed there was a little out of date. It showed the top 20, not the top 25 positions. I believe for 25 positions, it's in roughly the same order as we shown earlier on. We will have to get clarifications by the time we come to you next for rounds 4 and 5 of the championship over at the end of November. Right now, we're watching with Anthony Valorio among several battles on today's field as we drop into the final 10 minutes of racing here in Imola. Meanwhile, the scope of things up front is still a Ford 1-2. Jake Garrett miles away from being on the front row, but he's going to be in a comfortable third place for the time being. Nearest car to him, 6.5 seconds down the road, being Tadeusz Lichka with Velocity Racing. And see the crunch there and turned around. That's Lee Hemming in the background of Anthony Valorio, caught in a major crunch with the 313 Aston Martin. I believe that, yes, to be Ian Skeen that was caught up in that mess as well. Right behind him being one of the Lamborghinis looking to take charge of position on track. I believe that to be, at this time, Patrick Leger. Actually, no. So looking in the background, that is, as a matter of fact, Ben Rook, who's been lapped from 35th. That has all gone horrifically wrong, and definitely so for Toby Cyril, the man who started up at the front of this race, is now in 33rd with 8 minutes to spare. That has really been quite a mystery for VXS. So we see here with Andre Damrat is actually coming up very quickly on the fight we just saw go nuclear. Lee Hemming, you can see, is just in the foreground. That white, blue and red BMW now having been forced all the way down, looking on the charts here, to 28th place after his contact, courtesy of Ian Skeen's Aston Martin. He finds himself right in a crunch zone here with Valorio, Leger and Karlborg on their way up towards Piratella. Watching with the Aston Martin, the only Aston Martin in round 1 of the championship, goes side by side here with Anthony Valorio. Very little space to be found out through turn 9, then into turn 10 on the run down towards turns 11, 12 and 13 at the Aqua Minerale. Skeen charging against Valorio. Leger looking to charge against Karlborg, but he is dropping time with that damaged nose cone. We do have yellow flags. It's for the number 97 running into trouble. Let's see if we can catch on board here. It's with Matthew Copsey, who ran into serious trouble, now drops behind. Looking at it here, that's one of the XCL cars, I believe that to be at this time, Chris Farish in the 787. Back into yellow, green flag conditions, I should say, as we have now 7 minutes left to go in today's session. Watching here with Patrick Leger, it's contact for Anthony Valorio, turned around by Ian Skeen. He's bloodied his hands here with not one but two drivers today in the last 10 minutes. First it was Hemming, now it's Valorio. He's not going to be particularly popular by the end of round 1. There's making first impressions, and there's perhaps what you call that, the 313. He's going to find himself in a serious spot of bother here, maybe in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Now on board with Freno Radic, his teammate of the Euro Titans esports team, as he looks to size up here Nico Shaska in the 992 with Onid Racing, the substitute driver stepping in for the Porsche. Meanwhile, a driver who was a staple part of that top 10 at the end of qualifying, Dean Ellis, in 20th place. I mean, with every race we see here with a grid this size, you're going to have your drivers who have soared up to great heights and sort of touched the sky with their performance today, and for every one of those you're going to have a driver who was in that top 10 is now seeing rock bottom. But again, like I mentioned back at the formation lap, when you're at the bottom, where's the only place you can go? Up. So looking into round 2, there'll be a lot of hopeful faces heading to the Red Bull Ring. Right now, though, with 5.5 minutes left to go here in the opening round of Season 2 of the XCL Pro Series, there's still a lot left to be decided. Watching right now with the 98, we'll catch on with him later on as we take a look up the road for a fight going on right now between Melvin Milliston and Finn Gombert for 13th place. Let's stay on board then with Milliston. We know what he's capable of when he's pushed against it here, and with time becoming fickle, only a few more laps left in the charge here to put himself up on greater pastures. 13th place lies in front of him, and around the outside at the Variante Tamburello. How do you describe a move like that? Gung-ho for the number 997, reported there as the 68. What on earth was that? A proper leap of faith for Melvin Milliston. That was, and I say it lightly, ballsy, but he made it work. He is a witch doctor for a move like that. That is classic. That is Milliston heritage I've just seen there for 13th place. Very well done to that number 997. Unbelievable. So down towards Aqua Minerale, we see further down the line here. This is scratching around at the back of that top 15. Finn Gombert, James Mason, Nicholas Dahl and Chris Grad with exclusive K1, Frantic and Blaze Motorsports. We see here that gamble to put himself in the seat of the Porsche may not have paid off 100% here for Finn Gombert. Now, if I'm led to believe correctly from reading the regs for this event, it's a 50-point penalty for swapping your car, if it's even legal at all. Oh, we just got a nice little message in there. There's K1 Jupiter saying hello from the race control booth on the Console Endurance Series. Of course, at this time as well, that is the practice round for testing a lot of the core infrastructure for the upcoming virtual safety car and safety car systems being tested at this time. We'll be going over to them after this stream wraps up today to see how it's all going on. Right now, we're with Finn Gombert. Under siege here from James Mason. Mason looking for 14th place here with a few more laps left under his belt. That 997, I've got to say, that is one of the greatest moves I think I've ever seen. And I don't say that in the intent to drive up unnecessary hype. That is very necessary hype for Milliston. That was something else. Animalistic from that McLaren. Found the exact millimetre to strike there and went for it. Unbelievable. Out through Tosa then. Turn 7, we're on board with James Mason. Right behind him, Nicholas Dahl with Frantic Motorsport. Up in front, that bright purple 788 Porsche. Finn Gombert with exclusive esports. So looking at where we stand right now, as we are not too far off, as a matter of fact, from the final chapter of round 1 of the championship. Wilson Gigi leads the charge ahead of Andre Damrat, Jake Garrett 3rd, Tadeusz Lichka 4th, and Tyler Vermack in 5th. Ben Hoop at 6th, Joachim Eriksson in 7th, Jamal Cloud in 8th, Jan Bettentrup 9th, and Harry Thompson rounds out the top 10. Levi Warner in 11th place, Rob Appleton in 12th. Melvin Milliston, we saw that move up to 13th, a heroic charge there for the Velocity Racing driver, the number 997. We are seeing a move here, though. It's Dahl on Mason on the exit of the Variante Alto on our way down towards Ravazza. Can the straight line speed prove to be the ace in the hole here for the 413? He's up against it on the run down towards Ravazza. The 987 is looking for the inside, but can't find it. Very well placed by the BMW. Last of the late breakers there keeps the Ferrari at bay. Now on the exit of turn 18. So looking further down the line, Finn Gombert in 14th place. Mason, we just saw there on the defence of 15th. Behind him is Nicholas Dahl and Chris Grad, 16th and 17th. Chris Farish in 18th. Dean Ellis 19th. Matthew Copsey in 20th. Shaska in 21st, Radic 22nd, Skeen 23rd, Karlborg 24th. We do see a drive-through for Paul Schultz. It's gone from bad to worse there for Stilo Esports. Matthias de Munster with Blaze Motorsport 25th, Leger 26th, Hemming 27th, Valorio 28th, Williams 29th, and Van Manen in 30th. Flop in 31st, Wagstaff 32nd, Cyril 33rd, Schultz 34th, Rook 35th. And that's now where everything stands, and there could still be a few more fights left to play here. We see from behind James Mason, Nicholas Dahl and Chris Grad could be one such fight, but bear in mind it's in equilibrium here for the 987 at Frantic Motorsports. He is very, very close to being back on the charge against the BMW in front of him. We're on board here with Nicholas Dahl. We're on that final lap, so we will be catching on board in a moment's time with Wilson Gigi. He currently makes his way down towards Tosa on the exit of the Variante Villeneuve. Yeah, T-Blades in chat saying Ferrari is so bad around here. I wouldn't say bad, but it's not been great. I'd say putting it nicely there. This is definitely not their best track. I wouldn't say it's their worst, but at the same time, I wouldn't say there's a track that the Ferrari is almost comedically bad at. It's just not been the perfect day for Ferrari at this time. Something just doesn't click, and it's rather ironic it had to be at what is the closest thing to them as a home track. A track quite literally named after Ferrari is where they're having trouble. Harry Thompson, the fastest of those Ferraris. We will catch on with him later on, because now we turn our attention here to Wilson Gigi on his run down towards Ravazza. What else could be said that has not been made crystal clear by Fatch GT's endeavours here in the opening round of the championship here in the XCL Pro Series for the first round of Season 2. As we make our way out of Ravazza, the checkered flag awaits the arrival of the 23. Wilson Gigi is down to the line here on the first round of the championship to take home the win in beautiful form in the 23. A Ford 1-2 finish. Andre Damrat down to the line for second place. Jake Garrett third. A real turnaround for the Euro Titans driver in the 314. We saw him get shoulder checked earlier on in the race. He turns it around to a podium. What a drive. Tadeusz Lichka to the line. Tyler Vermack makes a sorry, completely skips my mind. Velocity Racing, 4th and 5th. What a turnaround for those two there. 996 4th, 998 in 5th. Ben Hooper, on the only drive of the MSA Racing team, puts them on 6th place here at the end of the first round of that championship. Joachim Eriksson in 7th place. A great result by Frantic Motorsports. He puts it 7th and ahead of Jamal Clouden. Had they a few more laps, they could have duked it out all the way to the line. Jan Bettentrup, for the best result of the K1 Esports team in round 1, puts himself in a quiet P9. Harry Thompson in 10th there. The best result for the SRC Motorsports team is 10th place in round 1. The 294 to the line. He's fought hard for that one. Levi Warner just misses out on a top 10 here. Rob Appleton to the line. Right behind him, Melvin Milliston. Just like we saw that battle earlier on, had there be one more lap, they could have fought all the way to the checkered flag, and it will be all the way to the checkered flag, so it seems here. Chris Grad up and ahead of Finn Gombert. Do my eyes deceive me here? Behind Grad by only 127 thousandths of a second. That is fury for Finn Gombert, and rightfully so. I'd be furious if a race was decided by a margin that close. Farish in 18th, Ellis 19th, Copsey rounds out the top 20. Full results, I imagine, will be available very, very soon. We see here Ian Skeen to the line. Bottom line, though, Wilson Gigi takes home the opening win here in Imola. What a drive we've seen today there by Wilson Gigi. That was second to none by all accounts. Your winner here in round 1, the number 23 Fatch GT Ford Mustang. A Ford 1-2 finish. Could the fears of a Ford dominant series be realised after only its first round? I'd say it's unlikely, with an extensive calendar on its way. Plenty of twists and turns coming up for this championship indeed. Looking at to where the championship will be next, you'll be heading over to XCL TV for round 2 of the championship at the Red Bull Ring, and the same story for round 3 for them. You'll be over on XCL TV at Brands Hatch. The next time you'll see us cover this championship will be on the 22nd of November for Watkins Glen, an hour in Schuyler County, New York State, and then for round 5 at the beautiful Mount Panorama circuit for a whole 2 hours of racing. I cannot wait here from the commentary box. That's all from us here on TRTN. A bit of a busy grid. I want to say here, this is our first time at the sort of top end of console esports. It was a really great opportunity to come down and work with the folks at XCL. We do hope that you have enjoyed. It's been very muddled here. Only one set of eyes, of course, and a bit of a gammy set of hands, let's put it this way. Not so easy to navigate a grid of 35 cars when all of them are less than a car's length of one another. That's all from us here on TRTN. A real pleasure from us. What a race. Well done to Wilson Gigi, and well done to Andre Damrat and Jake Garrett, your podium sitters around 1 of the championship. That's the end of the line for us. The end of the line for our broadcast this week, with no Sunday League tomorrow. That's all from us this week. Next time you'll see us will be for the opening round of the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. Do look forward to that one. That'll be at 1 a.m. BST on Wednesday morning. That's all from us. Take care. Good night.